Hiya, folks. Welcome back to Mike Loves Fanfic. So, I'm focusing right now, right here behind me in the screen. So I gotta move my lens here, my lighting. I wish I could make a light. You don't see me clearly because this one, you didn't. This one you can't see it a little clear. I'm going to start reading chapter 4. I wish I had to put my microphone on. So give me 1 second because I'm gonna put my microphone on. So we're gonna start the story. Let's start with the chapter 4. So, okay. So right where we left off is that they have the dance at the Hunk's restaurant, and they put down a lot of information on us for that last chapter. So I have a lot of things to deal with. So why not? Let's get started where we left off for our chapter 4, and let's just get down right to it. So, all right. Might have to play it out a little bit. So we'll see. Okay. Let's get. Chapter 4. Never insult them. For a long time, the subway has felt like a safe haven. Subway stations are a hellscape of Fae with ill intentions, feeling stifling and crowded and dangerous. But the trains themselves feel safe, encasing him in metal, keeping out all those who might wish him harm. As he stands off to the side, one hand gripping the rail above, eyes locked on the dark windows as the concrete tunnel rushes past, he feels safe. The train car is crowded with people. It smells piss, smoke, and far too strongly of someone's perfume, but it feels safe. Strangers cram together, train rattling on the rails, swaying precariously as they rocket down the line, with no control over what happens. But he feels safe. It's the one time he never has to worry about Faye, the one time he allows himself to relax, to let his mind drift without having to be aware of his surroundings. Because while people can be dangerous, they're nothing compared to what lurks just out of sight. Still, despite the fact that Sawa has been a safe moment of respite, he finds himself restlessly eager to reach his destination. There is a hot bubble of anticipation that fills his chest, pressing against his ribs and suffocating his heart. It's a tingle of nerves beneath his skin, a prickle of excitement that nearly feels like magic. It's a strange new sensation to be this eager to leave the safety of the train, but the moment the station starts to whip past the windows, Keith is already moving to the doors. He's the first one off as they slide open, feet hitting the concrete hard as he pushes through the crowd. He's well aware of the glamours that shimmer throughout the station. He sees them out of habit, gaze catching on them as his eyes sweep the area. Thick glamours, shining bright beneath the flickering yellow lights. Glamours that disguise horns and hoof feet, claws and muzzles. Glamour that disguises but is the creeping height and turns rugged voices into something sugary sweet. They're not high fae, bottom feeders, living in the Ironside and preying off humans in a concrete cage. But even the prickle of caution and the creeping edge of wariness can't sour the anticipation that builds hot in his chest. He maneuvers through the crowd, weaving a path that keeps him away from the shimmering fae. He hears the beat of Roll's drum long before he sees them. Wall of people thick and entranced around their busking setup at the back of the station. Eyes glazed and heads bobbing, faint smiles on their lips. He wonders how many of these people miss their trains. He pauses as he passes, squatting down in front of them, to pull out his wallet and slip a 10 to their glass jar. Bees is already watching him, tail thumping against the ground and nose nudging Keith's hand long before he reveals the treat. "Hey, buddy," he says softly, rubbing his fingers through his fur and scratching behind his ears. "That core Faye is waiting for you again." The voice is soft, a low murmur that's nearly buried under the beat of Roll's hands on his box drum. Something only he can hear. Keith glances up to find Naima watching him. She sits next to Beezer, swaying to the rhythm. Her eyes are lidded and her smile light and lazy, but there is a sharpness to her gaze. Keith's moment still, breath caught in his lungs as he whispers, "Which one?" Naima honks, and it sounds like lyrical melody, a fraction of a melody she longs to sing. pretty one. Blue eyes, marks on his cheeks. He lets out a long breath, feeling a smile threading the corners of his lips. Lance. Another thoughtful hum, another fraction of a melody. He has a name. He's a friend. She nods, slow and rhythmic, almost hypnotic in the sway of her movements. Her eyes, though, glinting purple beneath the dim lights, are sharp with intelligence and bright with a fervor he hates to be on the wrong side of. Good to know I don't have to gut him. Keith lets his smile win, looking once more to Beezer as the dog lays his head back down, rubbing his thumb between his closed eyes. No, not him. He watches you a lot. You'll let us know if he comes trouble. Rolo says, voice a murmur. His eyes remain closed, body moving with his beats. He listens to me sing for a bit, but he doesn't stay down here for long. Her smile is toothy, glint of her canine sharp. I think he fears us. He nods, exchanging a knowing look with her. A silent promise. It's in the steel of their gaze, and the lines tensing around their eyes and lips. Being an Ironblood isn't easy, and there's a camaraderie in finding others like you. It's a trust they built throughout the years. He's never had to act on behalf of them, and they never had to come to his rescue. But he knows they would if he needed it, and he knows he would be at their side in a heartbeat. It's unspoken in the air between them, as binding as any spoken promise. Give him our regards, Naima says. They're warnings. Pete pats Beezer one last time before pushing to his feet. I will. He can hear her sing as he makes his way up the concrete steps to the city above, voice echoing and haunting the station below. He itches to take the steps two at a time, but gets stuck behind a crowd of people, body vibrating with restless energy. You can hear the rain, can see it falling to the top half of the steps, creating puddles and thin streams that run down the stairs. The air changes, thicker with moisture and filling his nose with the smell of wet concrete. When he reaches the sidewalk, he steps out to the side, pausing as he looks around. Despite the rain, the city streets are just as crowded as they usually are, filled with the dark colors of coats, hats, and hoods, bodies hunched over, half hidden by umbrellas, walking quickly, feet splashing in puddles, desperately trying to get to their destinations. Cars whiz by on the road, tires kicking up droplets. The air shifts once more, growing colder, sending a chill rolling across the exposed skin at his neck like a breath of ice. A shadow passes over him, a body in his peripheral vision. The rain stops, and Keith turns to find himself faced with Lance's grin. The bubble in his chest pops, bursting to 1,000 sparks that shoot through his veins like a live wire, tingling and buzzing, igniting his nerves. It's a rush of euphoria, making him feel light and dizzy, body barely tethered to the ground. It's a thrill unlike any other. It's dangerously addicting. Hey, Lance greets, short and simple, smile somehow, bright and shy all at once. Hey, Keith breathes, unable to tamper down his own smile. It tastes like relief. Someone passes close by, forcing Keith to step forward to move out of the way, forcing him closer to Lance. Neither of them mind. Neither of them move away, huddled close beneath the umbrella Lance holds between them. It held low, obscuring much of their faces from those around them. Lance wears his usual oversized jacket, zipped up and hood pulled high to hide his hair. Keith knows it's less to protect himself from the rain and more to conceal his glam features, giving them some semblance of privacy from prying Fae eyes. Any Fae can easily tell his clothes are glamoured, but his face is what gives him away as a high Fae. This way he can walk with Keith on the streets without drawing too much attention. A Fae walking with a human isn't strange. A high Fae of the court casually strolling down the busy streets of an Ironside city? Yeah, that's a little more suspicious, especially if he's with a mortal. It's a curse that's wholly unnecessary, but one day find themselves taking all the same. Naima and Rolo say hi, he says, eyes roam over Lance's face as he stands close, gaze lingering on his lips for a moment before lifting to meet Lance's. Who? He asks, but he sounds distracted, eyes lit in the dark, swirling like storm clouds until his head. The singer and the drummer playing down the station. Ah, the Ironbloods. There's something guarded there. A purses lips as his smile fades. It prompts him to say, "They won't hurt you," smile curling. Left side as he tilts his head, feeling it crinkle at the corner of his eyes. "Unless you hurt me first." Lance lifts an eyebrow. "Protective, huh?" He shrugs. "We stick together." Lance hums, turning as he drapes an arm over Keith's shoulders, pulling him close beneath the umbrella, and guiding them down the sidewalk. "Well, I'm glad you have them watching your back. The siren threatened me." "She did?" He nods. "Not directly, but through her song." He smiles wry. "I know enough about sirens to hear a warning when it's there. My grandmother used to sing us warnings when she knew we were up to no good." Keith's brows furrow, glancing sidelong to catch the nostalgia adorning Lane's features, soft and fun and innocent. "I thought sirens were winter court fae." The lines around his eyes tighten, voice losing its whimsy as he says, "They are." Keith doesn't push it, and Lance doesn't offer anything else. They walk to the parlor in strained but comfortable silence. Lance's arm remains around his shoulders, umbrella held low to hide his face. Whenever Keith feels the telltale prickle of Faye eyes, Lance tenses at his side, head bowed and lips pursed, but the weight of eyes never lasts long. Lance walks him to work, and then lingers in the parlor for several more hours. He hovers around Keith until he shoos him away so he can work on some designs. He bothers Paige until she pushes him out of her piercing room so she can focus on taking stock. Then he sits on one of the couches near the window, arm resting on the back of it and chin resting in his palm. It looks beautiful lounging there, especially when daylight breaks through the clouds and the sunlight highlights the glamour shimmering on his cheekbones. It catches in his eyes, dazzling shades of crystal blues, but there's an edge about him, rigidness. His eyes are sharp and unblinking as he stares diligently out the window. His gaze flickers at everyone who passes, and there's a slight purse to his lips. The fact that Lance is on guard is unnerving, but the fact that he's watching is enough to put him at ease. And when Lance stifles and stands to pull the curtains on the floor left windows close, Keith merely retreats into the back room and doesn't question it. Right, so Keith is on his way to work, and then casually strolled by and saw Naima and Rolo busking. Okay, if you don't know what busking is, it's a Australian thing. It's just basically pulling out any instruments or like a bongo or drums, and then you can sing along the way while stand in the streets and perform something. It's busking. Love busking all around stuff. So that's that. And then he stopped by and he saw Lance. And just protect them from all the phase and everything. Stop buying and take to his work and start on, the designs for their tattoos and anything along goes that. So okay, that pretty much makes sense for this. Okay, I understand that. Alright, we'll get to the part, but first I need to notch down one more. Notch a little bit down to the lighting because I don't have a light in here. See? It's just not clear. I have to go. Key looks up, Causa's head cupped in his palms, fingers dug into the wolf's fur. Lance stands a few feet away and turns to stare off into the distance. There are lines around his pursed lips, brows pinched, his gaze is unfocused. Blue irises storming and gray as they swirl. What watches Keats, however, is the earring that dangles from his ear. The blue gemstone is glowing, pulsing with a faint internal light. What? He pushed himself to his feet, patting Cosmo one last time as his fingers slip away. Lance turns to him then, the ghost of a smile on his lips. It doesn't reach his eyes. I have to go, he repeats, lifting one shoulder to a small shrug. Allura is calling for me. Something in his chest twists, small but sharp. He can feel his stomach drop, but he ignores it. Ignores it like he ignores the shiver of disappointment that ripples across his skin. He purses his lips to keep from scowling as he steps towards Lance, as if getting closer might prolong their time together. How do you know? Lance lifts a hand, gesturing vaguely to his earring as he turns to face Keith. This is a token of hers. All of her closest supporters have them. She can call us home quicker than using messengers. Keith frowns, eyes narrowed on the dangling blue gem. Do you have to go? He hates how sour he sounds. Lance, however, laughs, a low chuckle that has shivers running down Keith's spine. Yes, he says, eyes lightening with amusement, but smiles still small. Unfortunately, I can't ignore her summons as much as I'd love to stay here with you. Both of you. He holds out a hand for Cosmo, who presses his head to Lance's palm. Lance smiles fond. I need to be with Laura. She doesn't summon me for nothing, and it's usually when she needs my help. The storm clouds of his eyes darken, smile falling with purse of his lips. I won't leave her to face the court alone. It's a strange feeling. The ugliness in Keith's chest. A bitterness that twists unpleasantly, but still somehow rebuffed by the fluttering of butterflies. He doesn't know how it's possible to be jealous of Lance's loyalty while still being enamored with it. But here he is, chugging down the sour envy, burning it deep inside of himself, where it can't see the light today. He offers a small smile and holds out a hand. We can take you closer to the fairy ring. Lance lifts a brow, surprise flitting across the features. Are you sure? But he reaches out all the same, perhaps automatically. Slips his hand to Keith's. Yeah, Cosmo can get us closer. He squats down, pulling Lance down next to him as they turn to face the wolf. Keith runs his free hand over Cosmo's fur, settling it on the back of his neck. You couldn't blink us, right, buddy? He meets Keith's gaze, deep golden eyes flashing with intelligence that he finds most animals lack. Cosmo lets out a sharp yip. He smiles, scratching the scruff of his neck fondly before turning to Lance, finding the fay's eyes ready on him, a smile on his lips that has Keith's stomach doing flips. Look him in the eyes and picture where you want him to take us. He can only go so far, but it's faster than walking. Lance mirrors Keith's stance, fingers meeting his on the back of Cosmo's neck. Their other hands clutch loosely at their sides. Keith watches as the two stare at each other, blue against gold. Two fake creatures, irises swirling with understanding. He can feel the spark and shift of Cosmo's magic beneath his hand, running like static along his fur, pushing against the fake glamour Keith has woven into his flesh. His own magic reacts to it, warming in his veins and making his hair stand on end. I never traveled by Blink Wolf, Lance says under his breath, holding Cosmo's gaze. What does it feel like? It's a rush of static, a shot that flares through his body, lightning, quick, making him stiffen, making the air rush from his lungs, a jolt to his entire system. His nerves are alight with sensation, unable to tell the difference between hot and cold, only registering something. His vision goes white, but it only lasts a fraction of a second. Between breaths, in the space between blinks, they reappear in another section of the forest, no longer atop his favorite hill amongst a field of flowers and tall grass. They are deep within the trees, cloaked by shadows. He's not entirely certain where they are, but he knows why. He feels the hum of magic. It's a vibration in the earth beneath his feet, just barely beyond comprehension. It's a tension in the air itself, powerful taut and poised to snap. He stands slowly, pulling Lance to his feet, catching him with both hands on his elbows when he stumbles. Whoa, he reads, eyes become more close to blinks. That was wild. Keith feels a small smile tug at his lips. Sorry, I forgot to warn you it can be a little disorienting at first. Lance smiles coy, even as he regains his balance, and clarity returns to his features. I think you just wanted to catch me as I fell. There's a tease there, a game, one that Keith knows he shouldn't play. Still, he lets a smirk curl at his lips as he shrugs, sliding one hand to his pocket as he says, Where to now? Lance's smile falls, confusion pinching his feature as he says, You shouldn't take me in closer. Keith meets his gaze, one eyebrow raised, challenging. You shouldn't walk me to work either. Lance looks him over, eyes narrowing and chin lifting, lips pursed into a thoughtful pout, but his eyes dance with a smile that he refuses to let form, then shrugs, turning before his grin can crack through. This way. He leads Keith through the forest, hand in hand. The air here is like static across Keith's skin, catching and sparking against the magic that lurks in his blood. The vegetation grows thick, blocking out much of the light and casting long shadows. Beams of sun peek through, cutting through the darkness igniting dust motes that hover in the air. The birds are loud, the bugs are louder. There's no path cut into the grass, and the forest grows wild. There's no sign of mankind's touch, and the further they go, the more Key wonders they have somehow already managed to cross into a faded realm. His eyes dart at every movement, body stifling at every sound. Lance's fingers curl between his own, squeezing gently as he offers a small smile. No one's around. I'll sense them long before we see them. Though it doesn't make him any less worried, it eases his frazzled nerves. You don't have to come this far, he adds quietly. Key merely squeezes his hand back, lifting his chin a little higher. I want to. Lance turns backward, but his mouth curls to the edges. Okay. Lance's pace slows. He knows they're getting close. They slink through the shadows offered by the thick canopy above. Lance pauses for a moment, head cocked as he listens. Keith waits with bated breath, free hand dropped to sink into Cosmo's fur, for comfort and for a quick escape. But then Lance nods, reaching out to move aside a gathering of branches, smiling as he gestures him forward. The coast is clear. Keith steps through the trees into a clearing, breath catching in his lungs. He's never seen a fairy ring, but it's hard to mistake it for anything else. The clearing rises into a small hill, on the crest of which is a circle of rocks and mushrooms. The mushrooms grow thick and wide, toadstools that are far too pristine to be natural. The rock glistens in the sunlight, and if he stares for too long, he swears he sees them pulsing. The sun hits the hill just right, illuminating it and casting the forest around them in dark relief, stretching the shadows and making them look far more menacing. He thinks that to mortal eyes, the fairy ring must look beautiful, magical in the way that nature tends to be, drawing people towards the infinite beauty of the world, like sunsets on the ocean and rolling mountains in autumn. But he can feel the crackle of magic in the air, real and powerful. It sinks into his lungs with every breath, tugging at something deep within, makes the magic curl tight in his core unfurl, reaching for it instinctually. It's refreshing. It's a breath of crisp, clean air. It feels exhilarating. It's a power chaotic and wild, curling around him, far from his control. It's a reminder of everything he should fear. It's terrifying. Adrenaline, hot and cold, thrilling in the best and worst ways. You can see the air above the fairy ring shimmer, like a curtain in the wind, translucent and sparkling, catching the light as it wavers in the breeze he can't feel. He wonders if humans can see it. He wonders if they can see the way the rocks glow. He wonders if they can hear the howl of wind from the other side. He wonders if they can hear the crackle of magic and feel the static of energy. He wonders if the toadstools look innocent, or if they can tell the colors are too bright and too unnatural. He wonders what it would be like to look upon the fairy ring without a sense of apprehension and dread. Cosmo stops at his side, leaning into his leg. His eyes drip around this clearing, a soft whine growling in his throat. Keith reaches for him absently, scratching behind his ears. He wonders if this is the ring Cosmo came running through all those years ago, trying to find the safety while certain death chased on his heels. Lance steps up to his side and Keith tears his gaze from the fairy ring to look at him. His expression is carefully neutral, lips pursed into a thin line that's neither a smile nor a frown. His face is smooth, clear lines and creases. He looks as pristine as the toadstools, crafted purposefully and molded into perfection. He hates seeing Lance like this. When will you be back? I don't know. He sounds so distant, a forlornness that's out of place in his voice. Keith tugs at his hand, forcing him to turn. He frowns, brows furrow as he looks Lance over. Be safe. Finally, a crack, lines around his eyes crinkling, a smile daring to touch his lips. That's what I should be saying to you. He huffs a short, dry laugh. I'm not the one who has to deal with a fake court. No, Lance hums, stepping closer. Close enough that their toes touch in their chests, reach for each other with every breath. But you are an impulsive, hot-headed, and stubborn ironblood. Lance's smirk is infectious. The caress of his words are intoxicating. The soft melody of his voice is enchanting. The air holds a chill, the fairy ring crackling with energy that puts him on edge, but he's drawn to the warmth radiating from Lance. finds himself leaning into it. He hasn't let go of his hand. He knows he should go, knows he needs to, but he can't bring himself to step away. He is comforted by the fact that neither can Lance. You should go, he says, amusement lifting at the edge of his words. Before anyone sees you. He swallows past the lump in his throat, finding it hard to breathe. I know. Why don't you? I don't know. Lance's lap is a breath caressing his cheeks. His free hand rises to brush the hair back from Keith's face, tugging it gently behind his ear, fingers delicate against his skin, hot to the touch. He feels Lance linger on the gold ear cuff, tracing the patterns with fingertips and eyes. Keith hasn't stopped wearing it since he found it, and he's not entirely sure why. It just feels right to wear it. Makes something deep in his chest ache when he doesn't. Ignites something in his lungs when he catches sight of it in the mirror. And Lance is always drawn to it with gentle touches, which Keith will admit he is addicted to. You're a good liar, Lance says, amusement tugging at the corners of his mouth. Keith is drawn to it. The ghost of a smile, the way it lights up his face and shines in his eyes, the soft, gentle curve of those lips. Wonders if they're as soft as they look. Wonders if Lance will be as gentle as his touches, or if his kisses will be rough and desperate, burn like the way Keith's blood does when they touch. How do you know I'm lying? He watches that smile curve wider, lopsided and coy. Because you're staring at my lips. Keith's eyes snap up, clashes with swirling blue, come alive with the magic in the air. Gemstones that shimmer and shine, gleaming with a knowing amusement. But Lance doesn't hold his gaze. His eyes trail down, down, lidded and dark, the saddle on Keith's lips. His hand shifts, moving to cup his jaw. His palm is so soft and warm, fingers long and gentle, buried in his hair. Keith leans into the touch, breath caught in his throat, eyes lidded as he waits, as he watches. Lance's thumb moves across his mouth, a gentle caress, pressing against the flesh of Keith's bottom lip, just to the right of Keith's piercing. His lips part with the pressure, breath shallow and shaking. His tongue moves out of habit, attempting to lick his lips, instead running against the tip of Lance's thumb. He can practically feel the man shudder, but his eyes never leave Keith's lips. He can see the glint of his piercing in the reflection of Lance's irises. His thumb shifts, nail touching the metal. I wonder if it will burn, he muses, a voice barely audible, thoughts forming without his consent. The press of Lance's forehead against his, the gentle breeze tugging at his clothes, Lance's breath against his lips, Keith's eyes fluttering close, anticipation coiling hot and tight, Lance's tongue sliding down his chin, out of the way, but he doesn't move. He waits. He holds just out of reach. He gives Keith the out. All he needs is to take it. But he doesn't. He pushes forward, tilting his weight onto his toes and closing the distance between them. Lamb's lips are as soft as Keith hoped they would be, flawless and perfect. His hand on Keith's jaw slides down to his neck, shifting around to cradle the back of his head. His touch is gentle, reverent, but his kiss is firm. He slots their lips together with purpose, breath held for a long moment before he exhales through his nose, body melting into Keith's. His touch is warm, and Keith's body tingles, a buzz of excitement flitting through his veins as something in his chest blooms. The anticipation snaps, setting sparks fizzing around his chest, reaching down into the cold, dark hollow, and bring light to the shadows, and warmth to the chill, and clarity into something he's always felt, and never been able to understand. And the lance pulls away, and the clarity slips between his fingers like smoke. He stays close, bodies pressed together, heavy breaths mingling, lips parted and wet, eyes lidded and pupils blown wide. Keith's hand is on Lance's hip, though he's not sure when that happened. His thumb absently slips beneath Lance's shirt, caressing the sharp hip bone. Does it hurt? Keith asks, curious and breathless as he stares at Lance's lips. He can't tell if they're redder than they should be, but there's no obvious welts or burns. Lance's tongue peeks out, running reverently over his lips. linger at the center where Keith's piercing would press. When Keith drags his gaze away, melting Lance's eyes once more, something has changed. Something between them. Something in the air. Something in the way Lance looks at him, touches him, leans into him. Something subtle. A predator's grace slipping seamlessly into his body language, making Keith react instinctively, hearts racing and hair stand on end. But the pleasant curl low in his gut is definitely not from fear. Not enough to make me stop, he says, half the words mumbled against Keith's lips as he leans forward for another kiss. And another. And another. Keith presses against him, melting to his embrace as his hands automatically find Lance's hips, slipping beneath the hem of his shirt to slide around to his back. Palms press eagerly to warm skin, holding them together. Lance's arms wrap around his neck, resting on his shoulders, clinging to him as he cradles Keith's head at the perfect angle, fingers curling into his hair. There's nothing shy about the way they kiss, nothing hesitant or uncertain. They fall into it without pause, sinking into each other, moving together like they were made to. Bodies snapping into place, hands and lips moving of their own accord, reacting to an instinct that he's never experienced, never knew he had. It feels like when he spars with Shiro, muscle memory taking over. It lacks the jury tingles of giddy anticipation that he expects. There's no breathless awe and gentle exploration. There's only the gentle hum of relief, the building burn of something sparking and catching between them. It doesn't feel like something new. It feels familiar. It tugs at something inside himself they can't quite grasp, but something his body feels nonetheless, sinking into familiarity, sinking to something he's been aching for. Kissing Lance is wonderful and heated, desperate and burning, but it's not new. They pull away when Cosmo lets out another soft whine, uncomfortable with the nearness of the fairy ring. Lance looks at him, dazed and content, but Keith's brows furrow as confusion starts to percolate at the back of his mind. Why doesn't that feel like a first kiss? Lance pulls himself away slowly, reluctant and clear in his lingering touch. But he eases away, walking backwards up the hill on slow steps. Nobody shifting with the grace of a predator, smooth as water. Holds Keith's gaze, lips quirk into a small, mischievous smile, and Keith knows he won't answer. Before that day at the subway station, did we know each other? And the tip of Lance's tongue presses to his bottom lip, slow and thoughtful. Ask me again another time. He tilts his head, smile playful even as his eyes were reluctant. You know how it is with us Fae. Third time's the charm. And with that, he steps over the fairy ring. He doesn't disappear. There's no flash of light or burst of sparks. His body shimmers with a strange current of magic, holding Keith's gaze as he slowly fades. The last thing he sees is a wink, and then Lance is gone, and the hill is empty. That, that right there is the moment you've been hearing this one before. It's the kiss. Finally, they did the kiss. But the kiss is not the first time ever. It was before. It happened. It did happen before. It's like, how do we know each other? Did we know each other for a long time? Well, Lance just refused to answer the question, and the only thing he said is, ask me again. Well, third time is a charm, and he would answer it. He refused to answer his question twice, and now I don't know what's happened for the third time if he answered that same question. Okay, but before all that, they transferred to where Cosmo is transferring. It's like a hill, and there is a fairy ring, or something along that line. But that's how it gets to be more intimidated, or for the relationship between those two. Alright, so that settles out for. I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying it's not natural, Peter says, illy chewing on her straw as they make their way back to the tattoo shop. Keith has his own coffee in one hand and one for Shiro in the other. He hops, eyes narrow at nothing in particular, as his face twists into a scowl. There's nothing natural about the cereal anyway. It doesn't matter. The natural order of things is to put in a bowl and then pour in the milk. What doesn't matter if it all ends up in the same bowl anyway. Oh my god! How can she agree with me that it doesn't matter? You don't have any say. Cereal is human food. Hunk is a food expert. So, he should know better, but he doesn't. They stop at the corner, and Pidge turns to face him while they wait for the light to change. I now have a hypothesis. That's the reason you eat cereal wrong, is because you're not fully human. There's no wrong way to eat cereal, Pidge. He pauses, eyes squinting at his lips curl. Actually, no, I take it back. There is a wrong way. Worse than you? Pidge cocks an eyebrow. Yeah, Shiro. Oh no, what does he do? Pidge practically bounces on her toes, eyes alight with mischief. Please tell me it's terrible so I can drag him for it? He eats his cereal soggy. No! He nods, so, yeah. He waits for it to get soft and soggy before eating it. That's disgusting. Pidge cackles, laughter bubbling out of her. Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't wait to tell Matt. He's going to freak. It happens so fast. The light turns. The crowd around them starts to move. Pidge turns quick, already stepping off the curb. He doesn't notice the Fae until it's too late. He sees the telltale shimmer as Pidge collides with their back, sending the Fae stumbling forward and the bag in their hand to go crashing to the concrete. He reaches out automatically, before he can register what he's doing. He's not sure if the instinct was born from spending too much time with Faye, or if he was worried about Pidge accidentally causing harm to one. Either way, he doesn't come to his senses until his hands wrapped around Faye's arm, steadying them and keeping them from falling. There's a spark at his touch, a brief arching of magic, as the Fae reacts to his sudden touch. He lets go immediately, hand flying to his chest, but the Fae is already turning. His eyes glow yellow beneath the thin shimmer of their glamour, pupilless and without irises. Thin lips curl back to reveal thick, sharp teeth. Markings drag back from their cheeks and pulling back from their browless forehead. Skin a pale shade of purple. They straighten to their full height, towering over him. Their proportions are off. Arms and legs just too long to be natural, just too willowy to be human. Neck far too long, even as they hunch at the shoulders, seemingly boneless as they twist and turn their head to gaze down at him. Eyes boring into his own, searching, pinning, his slipping past their lips. My apologies. Pidge's voice cuts through the building tension. She's already scooped up their bag, tensing between them to hand it over to the Fae. A pleasant, polite smile is plastered to their lips, expression open and kind, but he can see the lines straining around their eyes. He can see the stiffness in their posture. I wasn't looking where I was going. It won't happen again. I apologize. The Fae looks Pidge over with a newfound interest, picking it apart with glowing golden eyes, head twisting unnaturally from side to side. Their fingers are too long as they reach for the bag, curling far too slowly around the handle, nails long and sharp. Their glamour is thick. It shines where the sun hits them, like a glare off the ocean, dances around their skin and obscuring their form. It's hard to look directly, but Keith schools his features into indifference, refusing to let himself so much as squint against the glare. He wonders what Pidge sees, if she can tell if Faye's limbs are disproportionate, or if the glamour covers that. He wonders if he can see the way they move is inhuman and strangely boneless. Not for the first time, he wonders what it would be like to see them through human eyes, if they look just as eerie to the human mind despite the glamour. The Pidge's hand is tight around his arm, dragging him into the street with the crowd. Come on, Keith, before the light turns. They walk quickly, with purpose, silent and tense as they weave through the crowd, and try to put distance between themselves and that corner. Are they watching us? Pidge asks, voice tight and barely louder than a breath. Keith turns, glances over his shoulder. He finds the Fae's eyes instantly. They are a head taller than most of the crowd, standing several blocks attack, watching them, unmoving but watching. Yeah, frick, she hisses, running a hand through her hair. She glares straight ahead. I didn't even see them. I should have known. I wasn't paying attention either. It's not your fault. Are they following us? It looks as they cross another street. The Fae stands several blocks away still, oddly unmoving, but undeniably closer. Eyes turned toward them as they hurry across the traffic. A great to see, jogging. Yeah, frick. Frick! I tried to be polite. Was I not polite enough? Did bumping into them count as a slight? I don't know. He wishes he had answers. He wishes he could comfort her. But the truth of the matter is that no matter how polite she is, every Fae reacts differently. Every Fae counts a slight differently. The Fae is following them, watching them, but it's hard to tell why. You can't tell if they're merely curious or if they look offense and are now planning to prey on Pidge. Neither is good, and he's not going to let it happen. Come on, he says, walking past the tattoo shop with quick steps. Lengthening his stride, Pidge has to jog to keep up. Where are we going? We can't go to the shop or home when they're watching. We don't want them to know where to find us. Us, because Pidge isn't in this alone. We have to lose them and then hope they lose interest. He passes Cheryl's coffee to Pidge, pulling out his phone to call Cheryl. He picks up after only the second ring. Hey, I just saw you two walk past the shop. What's up? Pidge and I are being followed, he says, quick and sharp. Voice kept low. Pause. A voice like steel. By who? Don't know. Pidge bumped into one of them on our way back, and now they're following us. Did they say anything? Do you feel any malice? No. Ask Pidge. She's more sensitive to fate auras, since she can't see past the glamour. He glances at Pidge, whose lips are pursed and eyes hard, gaze darting between him, the sidewalk ahead and behind them. He doesn't know if she can even see the Fae in the crowd. Do you feel any malice from them? He asks. With your sixth sense? Pidge stares at the ground in front of them, face scrunched up in thought. I don't think so. I got the Fae tingles. I just got that kick of back the F away. Like fight or flight kicking into overdrive. It, but it was mostly just off-putting, not really angry. Over phone, Keith can hear Cher's. That's good. They usually react outright when they consider something a slight. They won't be able to touch you, but I don't like that they're curious. Me either, he glances at Paige. Cher says you probably didn't slight them, so they can't hurt us. Paige lets out a long breath. Okay, she mumbles. Okay. Cheryl, we're going to head towards the river. That's nearly a 4-minute walk. I know, but I don't like the look of this Fae, and I want to lose them. We'll catch the subway back into town. Alright, be careful. We will. He hangs up and slipping his phone back into his pocket. For a moment, just a brief moment, he considers calling Lance, but there's no point. He's still in the Fae realm, and Key doesn't want to worry him. Impulsive, stubborn, hot-headed, ironblood or not, he can still take care of himself and Pidge. Still, he recognizes the longing to hear Lance's voice, knowing it would sell the anxiousness crawling restlessly beneath his skin, but he doesn't dwell on it, shoves it aside to think about later. Or never. I was not planning on exercising today, Fish grumbles, breath already heavy as she hurries to keep up with Keith's brutal pace. There isn't isn't there a game shop in the North City you've been wanting to visit anyway? At that, Larry turns to Pidge's eyes. Frick, you're right, she grins. A certain hot intercepts, making lemonade out of lemons. Wow, there's a lot of things happening in trouble. So just Paige and Kate are stopping by and get the coffee. All of a sudden, there is the Fae, and Paige is trying to be careful and she's being polite. But slight is there is a thing. There's a Fae definition called slight. Yeah, I don't know what a slight here. Slight is basically going to something, but it's just coming after with it. They do usually act outright, and they won't even touch you, they won't move anything. It's just they're reacting to you. That considers them a slight. Oof, that's like a definitely the tip of the iceberg of just preying on the humans or on the Iron Blood. You're in that edge, very close to getting caught. And that is exactly that I'm worried about. If they're coming over or coming after them, that's more problem. Keith feels the heavy eyes on them all the way to the bridge, like the burner bites against his skin, making his flesh crawl, but the Fae doesn't follow them across the river, nor do they see them again when they take the subway back to the inner city. Shiro's coffee is cold by the time they get back, but he doesn't mind. They don't see the Fae again, but the effects are lasting. Pitch puts up a front of nonchalance, but you can see the way she glances over her shoulder, the way her eyes are wide and wild, the way she hovers close to his side and hides in the piercing room once they're back at the shop. Shiro gives her the next few days off, just in case. He goes about in his days, through his routines. He feels eyes on him, but he's not sure if they're real or his own paranoid imagination. Whenever he looks, he can't find anyone watching him, Fae or otherwise. An uneasy feeling has settled in his chest, riffing and squirming, making his chest feel tight and his fingertips numb. It's a paranoia that itches at the back of his mind, a poison in his thoughts. It makes it hard to think, makes it hard to sleep. He lies awake at night, curled up with Cosmo, staring at the ceiling as he remembers the way Lance's lips felt against his, the way Lance felt pressed against him, the feeling of Lance's fingers in his hair and dancing across his skin. He misses him far more than he ever thought he would, far more than he ever should. He's not sure when Lance became synonymous with safe, but it's a realization that comes creeping up on him in the depths of night, curling around his heart with a warmth that's strangely grounding, strangely calming, setting the nerves bouncing around restless in his veins. He thinks he should be worried, but strangely, he's not. So the after fact, so the after that they finally saved and they're back at the barbershop. So they decided to shut down, going back home, taking a few days off because they've been followed. Because the tattoo shop is not a safe place anymore. Because there's fays and there's humans around that might be watching them. So be careful. So yeah, be careful. Just when he thinks things are getting back to normal, his paranoia has calmed and Pitch has gotten back to work. He walks out of the bathroom on Saturday night to find Shiro lounging on the couch. He pauses, towel wrapped around his waist and clothes bundled under one arm. He stares. It doesn't take Shiro long to notice him. He tilts his head back, smiling at the confusion that's pinching his features. "Hey," he says, like it's a completely normal thing for him to be here, and waves to the open pizza box on the coffee table. "About dinner?" Keith hums, nodding as Shiro looks back to the TV. He slips into his room, changing quickly into sweats and a t-shirt before joining Shiro in the living room. He, too, is wearing sweats, the ones with the holes in his knees. It's an old t-shirt that's thin and fraying. Keith has lived with him long enough to know that he wears when he doesn't plan on going out. "What are you doing here?" he asks as he drops onto the couch, leaning back and propping his feet up on the coffee table. Shiro glances at him sidelong, paused with a slice of pizza halfway to his mouth. "I live here?" Keith gives him a flat stare, crossing his arms over his chest. "Tonight is your date night." Shiro's mouth snaps shut. "I don't have a date night. You start hanging out with Adam every Saturday night for the past 4 weeks." Keith leans forward, taking a slight squeeze before leaning back, cocking one eyebrow and shooting Shiro a nose mark. "Sounds like a date night to me." Shio's lips purse, stifling the sigh that slips from him. He looks away, sinking lower on the couch. "I guess that's a fair point. So why aren't you with him? Is he busy? No, no, it's... Leans forward, setting his pizza slice aside. He rests his elbows on his knees, hunch over, fingers ringing together as he cracks his knuckles. It's more complicated than that. More complicated? How? I'm not sure. I should keep seeing him. It comes out in a whisper, pain at the edges. Do you really like him? She runs fingers through his hair, head turned away. Yeah, yeah, I do, but I don't think it's going to work out. Keith leans forward, setting his slice aside to give Cheryl his full attention. He mirrors his position, elbows on his knees, half turned toward him. Why not? She turns to look at him, expression tired and voice haggard. Because I'm a fae, Keith, and he's human. He frowns, brows coming together. So, my mom was fae and my dad was human. You spent the last 10 years telling me that there was nothing wrong with that. He sees the smile fighting to break through, twitching in the corner of his lips. It doesn't quite reach his eyes, but there's wry amusement in his voice as he says, Yes, and you fought me about it the whole time. I thought you of all people would understand. You've always been wary of human-fae relationships. Yeah, but you haven't. Besides, I'm an Ironblood. There's a difference. Not that big of a difference. My kind is haunted. That's the valid point. So, why aren't you with Adam? It's complicated. He crosses onto his chest, letting himself fall back onto the couch as he shrugs. I've got time. Tell me. Sheer hesitates, and Keith makes a show of an exasperated sigh. If you're telling me about it, I'll tell you something. Are you making a deal with me? He asks, one up a race, smile definitely breaking through. Keith allows himself a small smirk. Maybe. That's a pretty vague deal. You can tell me literally anything. I promise it's relevant. Well, now I'm curious. I know, so do we have a deal? Shiro says, collapsing back on the couch next to him. I guess we do. He tilts his head back, resting it on the couch, staring at the ceiling, lines form around his eyes, and lips pursed into a small frown. It's just the whole thing with Pidge and that face stalking you was sort of a wake-up call. Sure, we're fine. Nothing happened. I know, but it reminded me how dangerous my kind can be. How just being with me can put Adam in danger. You're the most domesticated fae I ever met. How can being with you possibly put Adam in danger? Cher smiles small and wry, voice soft as he says, I wasn't always domesticated, Keith. You grew up as a changeling. You grew up with humans. You've been domesticated from the start. He's convinced it's one of the biggest reasons Cher has never felt dangerous to him. Half the time, he feels more human than not. That, and the fact that Shiro has been his closest friend and family for 10 years, watching after him and teaching him and keeping him safe. Yeah, he can't imagine Shiro bringing danger to anyone. Shiro searches his face, eyes swirling like molten silver. Like Lance, there's not much Shiro's glamorous hide, and he has grown so accustomed to what little shimmer there is that he barely notices it anymore. But Shiro's eyes are always a window to his fey nature, irises shifting like seas of molten metal, backlit and glowing like embers within. I never told you about my time in the summer court, did I? He shakes his head, lips pursed. No, you said it wasn't important because that's not who you are now. Sure hums, nodding as a small smile tugs at his lips. It's true, that feels like a lifetime ago, and I hope I will never have to go back. You make it sound like there's a possibility you might have to. Instead of answering, Shiro says, I can't tell you what I did in court. I swore an oath not to tell anyone. Why? He asks, though he knows Shiro won't answer directly. At the time, I thought it would protect you. Now, I'm not so sure. He stares at the TV, but his gaze is distant and unfocused. He looks thoughtful, nodding slightly to himself. I'm going to change the subject now, he says, voice carefully neutral, and I'll let you draw conclusions from that as you will. You've always been good at reading between the lines. Keith swallows hard, feeling it settle hard and solid in his stomach. It fizzles and bubbles up his chest, and he's not sure if it's dread or excitement. Okay, what are the 3 laws of Fae? An answer comes to him easily enough. An automatic answer born from years of having the information not only drilled into him, but living with the Fae. Speak no false words, break no oaths, harm no outsiders. Shir nods, humming softly as Keith rattles them off. Right, so that last one. What does it mean? Why are you quizzing me? His brows furrowed. You taught me like this like 10 years ago. Just humor me. Exasperation hangs on his words, but his lips curve into a small smile. Keith hups, rolling his eyes as he tilts his head back to stare at the ceiling as he draws. A Fae can't directly harm anyone outside of their court without reason. Summer and Winter Fae can't attack each other or Wild Fae without being slighted, which could be anything from insult to broken deal to disrespect or being injured, even if it's by accident. The same law protects humans, but it's easier to get a human to slight a Fae because they don't understand how things work. Right, Shira says again, nodding. Every Fae is bound by it, even the highest and oldest Fae. Do you know the one exception to that law? He rolls his head to the side, eyes narrowing as he looks at Shira. There's an exception? Shira's lips quirk. I'll take that as a no. He turns to Vasky, smile faint as his expression takes on something more solemn. The night. The night? He echoes. Both courts have a knight in direct service to the king or queen, and oftentimes to the prince or princess as well. The knight is their champion, and their only way around the third law. Once given the mantle knight, that Fae can harm anyone, regardless of court or slight. That sounds dangerous, he says slowly, a chill of realization creeping through him, prickling at his lungs and pushing his heart to beat faster. It is, Shira agrees. One hand moves to his chest, fingers pressing to his sternum as he rubs his chest through his shirt. The movement catches Keith's attention, breath catching in his throat as a shock of anxiousness ripples through him, shuddering down his spine, but he has no idea why, and the itching in the back of his mind slips further into darkness whenever he reaches for it. The Winter Court uses their knight mostly as an assassin. The Summer Knight's job is to stop the Winter Knight. Keith's mouth feels dry, and it takes him a moment to find his voice. Are you telling me this because... Shira meets his gaze, eyes swirling silver, lips pressed into a thin line. I was very well known in the Summer Court. His voice even. Casual. If it wasn't for the way each word feels like it's pressing, pushing Keith toward the right conclusion. He doesn't need to be pushed far. You were the Summer Knight, he breathes. The knot in his stomach is decidedly dread, though there's a lightness in his chest as he looks at Shiro. He's always been impressed with Shiro, his physical prowess, his kindness, how quickly he takes charge of situations, and the confidence which he leads. He has all the potential to be cruel, but he's never been anything other than kind, protective. He used to admire Shiro, still looks up to him, if he's being honest, but it's leveled out in recent years, ever since they started to feel more like equals in the ending. Best friends rather than messed up kid and guardian. But right now, it feels that familiar sense of awe. Shiro smiles, small and wry, but it doesn't reach his eyes. There's a sadness there, a hollowness that Keith feels ache in his own chest. Shiro lifts his shirt, pulling it up to his collarbones. Keith has seen his tattoos 1,000 times, instantly recognizes the one emblazoned across Shiro's chest. Right at the center of his sternum is a 7-pointed star encircled by a sun, spiked simple wings spread out from it, framed beneath his collarbones, tips at his shoulders. It's a tattoo Keith is familiar with, but right now there's an itch beneath his skin, and eyes in his veins. A knight doesn't retire. A mantle is for life. The only way out is death. The air rushes from his lungs, eyes waiting. So you're still bound to the court? Yes, he says with a sigh, lowering his shirt once more. Sometimes nags at the back of his mind, but he's so used to the sensation slipping through his fingers that nearly ignores it. But this time, the memory doesn't fade. It forms, pulled to the forefront of his mind, concrete and certain. Honket said the winter night disappeared. Shira's smile falls, replaced by that careful expression, words stiff as he says, "He did." Keith's eyes narrow, the reds starting to weave tighter, forming a whole picture. "Is that why?" Shira smiles back, along with a soft chuckle. "The summer's night job is to stop the winter night. Without the winter night, the court doesn't need me." He gestures to the living room. Smiles become more genuine, finally catching in his eyes, making those silver eyes shine like moonlight rippling up the ocean. "So I can live here, with you. I can have my tattoo parlor. I can live whatever life I want." "And if the winter night comes back?" he asks, heart feeling heavy. He already knows the answer. Shiro is silent for a moment. Then his foot moves, nudging the pizza box on the table. "You should really eat before it gets cold." Half the pizza is gone, and at 30 minutes into a show, Keith hasn't been paying attention when he says, "Hey, Shiro." "Hmm? You should go see Adam tomorrow." "Keith." He turns then, pitting Shiro with a flat stare, eyes narrow as his lips purse into a stern frown, one he learned from the man himself. "You deserve to be happy. You shouldn't let the courts hold you back. If you want to be with him, you should be with him. Being with me could be dangerous for him." He hates how small Shiro sounds, how certain and quiet. Keith, however, finds his frowns easing away. He doesn't smile, but he knows it's close. Sometimes dangerous things are worth it. Shiro hums, and his eyes turn sharp and searching. Keith looks away, but he knows it's too late. "Sounds like you're speaking from experience." Keith just shrugs. "We had a deal. I share with you, and you share me." He lets himself smile. "I kiss Lance." One eyebrow raises, but he doesn't look surprised. The ghost of a smile touches his lips. "And? And what? What does this mean?" "I don't know." A pause, and then Shiro is pushing himself to his feet, stretching before shuffling around the kitchen. Kate swings an arm over the back of the couch, turning to watch his retreat as he says, "Where are you going?" "I'm getting a couple of beers." Shiro throws back. He returns a moment later, handing one to Keith. "What are we celebrating?" Keith asks as they clink their bottles together. Shiro grins his lips, eyes dancing with mirth. "To the fact that we're both human enough to be disaster gays." Keith laughs, and right now, in this moment, safe at his home with his best friend at his side and dog at his feet, heart still swelling from the memory of his kiss with Lance, he foolishly feels the courts can't touch him. This is another information that you have to unlock. It's an unlock thing before Keith and Shiro. So do you remember about the thing about Shiro? You focus on attention to Shiro here because Shiro is a fae. You gotta look all the categories right here. Remember the additional tags I mentioned about? Yeah, I mentioned that one on the very first. So I read through all of it. I read through every single one of them. And they have a deal on what they're secret and what they're secret as well. So for Shiro, yes. I mean, if you want to put Anim in danger, it's more problematic because he's a Fae and a human. There's a human-Fae relationship. But Lance and Keith, they have a Fae and half Fae. Oh, Iron Blood. But that is a very different. Because you just realize right now the knight of that summer court is Shiro. Shiro is the summer court's knight. I will probably put this prediction here because I've seen a lot. We've seen Lance, Keith, Shiro, Laura. Well, someone mentioned Allura a lot. Honk mentioned Allura. Lance mentioned about Allura. Get human pitch. Oh, there's another characters there. It says Shay, everyone else, and Lotor is very missing. Is the missing in this character. He could be. He might. My prediction is Lotor is the summer and is the night court's winter. Well, winter court's night. Shiro is a summer court's night. But if my prediction is correct, I think Lotor. We have not mentioned Lotor a lot. But if my prediction is correct, I think Lotor could be the winter court's night. Okay? Whatever to kill off. And the summer's night is to stop the winter night. Right? Is to stop the winter night from killing anyone. And the winter night disappears, so without the winter night, the summer court doesn't need Shiro to put on the fight. But what if the winter night comes back and fight against or killing all someone who they're coming after for? But that's pretty much it. That's all the information. And then Keith confesses it to confesses to Shiro that yeah, he kissed Lance. I mean, they're both human enough to be with someone else. They do. We got Shiro and Adam to be with each other, and then Keith, Shiro and Lance. Very obvious. When Lance arrives, Keith is waiting for him. He's gotten a text 20 minutes ago, and he was too restless to wait inside. So he stands outside, dressed in nothing but sweatpants, barefoot and a blanket wrapped around him. He tilts his head back, gaze lost in the midnight sky. It's a clear night, and it's far from the inner city. He can lose himself in the stars. Back when he was little, he used to imagine what it would be like to visit those stars, to be far from the Fae, to be free. Lance arrival isn't preceded with a shout or flare. Not a sound follows in his wake. Keith sees no movement, no shadow hopping the fence, not a shift of the plants lining their yard, not a step, not a sound, not a sight. But he feels the moment Lance is near, the caress of a chill breeze, running light fingertips of ice along his skin, leaving goosebumps in their wake. It's subtle, but it's unnatural, and it's something he's grown increasingly familiar with and stupidly fond of. He shivers, pulling the blanket tighter around his shoulders, but there is a body pressed up against his back, arms wrapping around his waist, weight settling on his hips, a chin hooked over his shoulder, and a brush of hair tickling his ear and cheek. It would be a startling if he hadn't been expecting it. The smell of salt, rain, and warm sand fills his lungs. He keeps his eyes on the stars, a small smile touching his lips as he leans back into Lance's embrace. His body is solid and sturdy. Warmth radiates from where they touch, even through the blanket. Why is the air around you always so cold when you're so warm? He asks, words murmuring into the night. Aren't you supposed to be summer court fae? Lance hums, and Keith can feel it vibrate through his chest. My grandma is a winter court, not a siren, not all of us traces of her gifts. But I did. That explains your voice. Lance's head turns, nose trailing teasingly against his skin as Lance smiles against his neck. You like my voice? Keith hums, but he tilts his head against Lance, and that's as much of a affirmative as he's willing to give. Is that why the court doesn't like you being one of the Lord's suitors? Lance scoops, and Keith can feel his breath tickle his ear. Another shiver runs down his spine, but this one has nothing to do with cold. His head tilts, his own breath coming short, eager to feel Lance against sensitive skin. One of the many reasons, yeah. He holds on one hand in front of them, and Keith watches as a thin layer of ice begins to crystallize on Lance's palm, spreading out to his fingertips. He twists his hand, curling his fingers to catch the light. They don't mind water magic, but the moment that water freezes, it's taboo, he mumbles. But I'm not just attuned to ice. He snaps fingers, and it melts away instantly, a single small flame covering over the fingertip of his index finger. But I'm so attuned to fire, a dual nature, something that makes me powerful. Some think it makes me weak. Some think it makes me unstable. Some think it makes me untrustworthy. He rubs his thumb over his finger, and the flame goes out. The arm returns to Keith's waist, wrapping around them tight. He buries his face once more in the curve of Keith's neck. But really, that's just an excuse to dislike me. The High-Fae are overly critical of anyone who has Allura's trust. There's just a lot of things to hate about me. I noticed. Lance huffed an indignant breath before lifting his head to lightly nip at Keith's skin. It meant to be a playful punishment, a pinch and a tease. But Keith's breath hitches, a soft sound escaping his lips, surprise and pleasure flashing through him in tandem, coiling low in his gut. He freezes, and Lance stiffens behind him. His silence stretches, but it doesn't feel tense. It doesn't feel awkward. It feels tight and heated, pulled deliciously taut with anticipation. A low chuckle, vibrating through his chest. A smile pressed into a sensitive hollow beneath his ear. A voice mumbled and coy. I miss you. Keith allows himself to smile, but he doesn't give Lance the satisfaction of seeing it. Instead, he steps away, moving around Lance to head back towards the house, but not before reaching out and grabbing his hand. Lance weaves their fingers together, following easily. Keith guides him into the house, locking the door behind them. He doubts Lance is leaving tonight. Lance lets go of his hand to greet Cosmo, who sprawls out on the couch, tail thumping as Lance coos at him softly. Keith leaves them to it, wandering down the dark halls back to his room. There he sits on the edge of the bed, blanket still wrapped around his shoulders. Lance doesn't make him wait for long. He is there only moments later, a lazy smile stretching across his lips as his eyes find Keith. His eyes glow faintly in the dark, backlit by moonlight. He steps into the room, gently pushing the door shut. The night swallows the soft click. Keith watches as Lance peels the jacket from his shoulders, draping it across the back of his desk chair. It's something he knows before but never bothered to think about. He's used to Shiro choosing to wear human clothes, but not all they do. Most prefer to weave clothes from magic, using their glamour to shift it however they like. He's seen Lance do it once before, knows that he wears his glamour, but he's seen Lance remove his jacket often, and it's never really sunken in until now. The jacket is real, he finds himself saying, staring at the bundle of fabric draped over his chair. No matter how powerful the Fae, glamored clothing shouldn't be able to hold form away from them. Lance found his gaze. Oh, yeah, it is. But you wear your glamour? I do. Then why the jacket? He shrugs, moving across the room with a slinking grace that has the breath slipping out from Keith's lungs. He steps in front of Keith, and his knees spread automatically, allowing Lance to step between them. He briefly wonders if he should feel embarrassed for that, but the moment is short, lived as Lance runs his hands along his arms, pushing the blanket away. Special to me, he mumbles, eyes lit and voices as his hands lightly run along Keith's bare shoulders. Why? It was a gift. Fingertips trace his collarbones, and Keith feels frozen beneath their touch, afraid that if he moves, the moment will break. Lance hums and low appreciative. You're not wearing a shirt. Keith's lips tug up into a smirk, eyes lidding as he reaches up to tug at the hem of Lance's shirt. He twists the fabric between his fingers, marveling at how real it feels, despite knowing that it's woven from magic. It barely even shimmers as he rubs it between his fingertips. Lance must be very good at illusion magic. You are, he says, tongue slipping out to his bottom lip, dragging across his piercing. He smiles when Lance snaps into movement. You should fix that. The fate is as natural for Lance as breathing, a tilt of his head, the small stench of his mouth, a deep inhale and humming exhale, and suddenly the shirt twisted between Keith's fingers starts to shimmer, fading from existence in the space between blinks. One moment there, and the next is gone, dismissed, leaving Keith's thumb pressed to his fingers. Then Lance's hands are at his shoulders, pushing him back onto the bed, He goes backwards as Lance crawled over top him, hovering above on hands and knees, grinning down at him with that coy tilt to his lips. His beautiful, brown skin sculpted impeccably across defined but lean muscles, broad shoulders and narrow hips, hair trailing down from his belly button, collarbones cut and defined, begging for Keith to mark them, arms thin but strong, caging Keith in. Even in the darkness, Keith can see the faint, pale shimmer of glamour curling around parts of his skin, not unlike the glamour he wears on his cheeks, that which clings to his hair. Unable to resist, Keith reaches out, fingertips trailing along a curve of glamour that coils across his ribs. His skin is warm, but he shivers beneath Keith's touch. Keith can feel his muscles twitch and flex beneath his hands as they roam up and down his sides. Can feel how his breath shudders, and as he slides a hand up the center of his chest, palm flat, he can feel the rapid beats of his heart. It matches his own. But as beautiful as Lance is, his eyes are drawn to the necklace dangling around his neck, a thick braided black cord. Intricate knots form a small net that fits snug around the gem, holding it safe. His fingers find the cord. Both his hands to the gemstone is cradled in his palm. He squints in the darkness, trying to make out the collar, when it tilts just right, just enough to catch the moonlight coming in from his window. It gleams a deep purple, not unlike the gem embedded in his ear cuff. But there's something off about it. Something. It's not a gemstone. It's a marble. A simple and ordinary glass marble. Pretty but nothing special. But there's something about it. Something that pulls at a string in his chest. One that runs deep into the hollow he holds so close to his heart. One that when plucked resonates with no sound. It itches at the back of his mind. A feeling he can't grasp. A thought lost before it can fully form something. Before that day at the subway station, Valance's hand is pressed to his lips before the question can fully form, covering his mouth and cutting off his voice. He stares, brows furrowed, Valance only smiles. Don't. Not yet. Don't ask me a third time just yet. There's a plea in his voice, a fear in his eyes. As much as Keith wants to know, he feels his curiosity dissolve and waver when pressed by those begging eyes. The hand pulls away slowly, cautiously, and Keith hates the weariness that makes Lance's body stiff. So, instead he reaches up and cups Lance's face, fingers sliding around behind his neck as he pulls him down. Capture his lips in a kiss that's simple, that's delicate, that's firm but gentle and reassuring, until the tension melts out of him and Lance eases down onto him, putting their bodies flush and a soft sound escapes his throat. Exploratory but familiar. His hands move over Lance's body with an instinct driven by something. They know where to go. His body knows how to move against Lance. His lips know how to move. His teeth know where to bite. New but familiar. Familiar but new. He loses himself in sensation, in Lance, the smell of ocean rain, in the soft noises that Lance makes in the pants of his breath in the quiet of his room, in their heartbeats beating against ribs in a desperate attempt to reach one another. That itch still lingers in the back of his mind, the strange tug in his chest, but he lets them be consumed and forgotten in the heat of the moment. He was trying to ask that third question, but Lance said, no, just not yet. Yeah, this is just all about it's just basically, here's the key number 2 of the intimate, intimidation. It's like, it's not intimidation, it was like a long and then putting down to whatever they're down to. And there's something just feels like very more interesting than you want to be interesting to listen. So, and thank you so much for watching this video. That's the end of the 3rd chapter. Well, I don't know what's going to happen next, because everything is just, settled in and you have a lot of information coming through. So, We'll see. We'll find out next time. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video and reading chapter 3 with me. So, we'll have another chapter anytime.